Hello and welcome to the Coming Down to Earth with Spirit podcast with me, your host, David Hale. In the podcast, we'll be talking about mediumship and all things spiritual in a down-to-earth and honest kind of way, with a touch of humour also. So I hope you can join me on my podcast journey so you can learn from my own spiritual journey and experiences with spirit in the aim to help you on your own spiritual journey, or it may just be to answer any of those questions that you have about the spiritual world. So join me now as we get into this episode. Hello everybody and welcome to another listener questions episode. I hope you're well and thank you very much for continuing to listen to the podcast as well. I very much appreciate it, and ultimately I hope you're enjoying them. I hope it answers your questions for you. Now we have another question today from the lovely Joanne, and again, Joanne has some fabulous questions. But everybody else, get your questions into me, whether you email them to me or message me on social media. Get your questions in so I can turn them into a podcast and get those answers back to you. Now, Joanne's question is kind of based on the theory that we have a soul contract and that our life is predetermined. So we leave the planet when we're meant to leave the planet. So the question is, if it's decided when we come to Earth and when we leave it, do you think there's any give and take? Can our checkout time be changed? So it's a good question. It's quite a thought-provoking question as well. And as always, I'm just going to give my view on it, my perspective on it, right? Because I have no proof to back this up, neither does anybody else. And you also might hear different answers from other mediums or spiritual people, which is fine. But this is just me speaking my thought process on that. So for me personally, I believe that yes, we're all here for a purpose, for a reason, and for a certain amount of time. For some people, they're here shorter than others. Some people are here longer than others. And that's just that's just our journey, right? Is my feeling, without getting into details about soul contracts and all that. So I do think that yes, sometimes our time is up when our time is up. And if I give a personal example here, when I was 16, I think I was 16, my uncle died instantly of a heart attack at the age of 36. And, you think at someone of that age would be still be around for a long, long time. But no, at the age of 36, he died of a heart attack. He had heart disease, didn't realise he had heart disease. Wasn't his fault really, because it's a genetic thing. There were heart issues within the family. And I do remember my mum a while after saying, it was just his time. We couldn't do anything about it. It wasn't like, he could be taken to hospital and have surgery. It was just boom, gone in an instant. And so I look at that situation, as does my mum, and just say, look, that was just his time. We didn't want it to happen, obviously. At the age of 36, got a lot of life left to live. And obviously she didn't want to see her brother pass. I didn't want to see my uncle pass, especially at that age. So as painful as it was, you can't change it. It happened. And in that situation, we think of that as, it was just, that was just his life. That was what he was here. Whilst he was here for those 36 years, he did what he had to do, and his time was up then, sadly. But I don't believe that is the case for everybody, because of humans, because we have free will. And it's that free will that can end someone else's life. So we think of murder, we think of, horrendous accidents that happen. We also think of the free will of the individual. So, when you take your own life, those things I feel they can change our checkout time, because I don't believe that anyone signs a contract to come to this earth to be murdered, for example. Because if you believe in scripture and in spiritual philosophy, no human being has the right to take the life of another human being. Only God can take someone out of this physical life, right? So if you think about it that way, so if somebody is, God forbid, if somebody is murdered, and we know it does happen, sadly, that is another human being using their free will to shorten the life of another person. So therefore, I believe that their checkout time was changed because someone else decided to change it for them. Right? If that makes sense. And also same, with suicide, for example. Now, I know there are things that lead up to a person taking their own life, right? With mental health, whatever it might be. But ultimately, a person has used their free will and their choice to take themselves out of this lifetime. So in those situations, you could also say that their own free will had changed their checkout time. Because again, if you look at spiritual philosophy and, in the Bible and whatever, I'm not dogmatic or particularly religious, but, they state that suicide is something that shouldn't happen. Again, only God can decide when someone leaves this planet and not ourselves, right? And so I'm not judging anybody, right? Obviously, we know suicide is not the way. And would really encourage anybody who is feeling that, suicidal or having those thoughts to seek help, because no one should get to a point in their life where there is so much pain and mentally, emotionally, that they think the only way to end that pain is to end their life. But that's whole different topic there. But it's just to get to the to explain my point of, yes, I do think that our checkout time can be changed based on us. It's humans that can change it. So that's it. I'm going to leave it there. I don't think it needs to go into any more details about anything else. I think I've answered the question, Joanne, and for anyone else that also had those same thoughts or feelings about it. But again, it's just my thought process that I'm talking through here. Again, we can't, there's no proof and nothing to back this up. It's just my thought process and my perspective on it. So I hope it made sense. Thank you, Joanne, again for the question. But yeah, look after yourselves. Keep listening to the podcasts, and I'll speak to you all again soon. Well, that's it for today's listener question episode. If you have any questions that you'd like me to answer based on the spiritual world or mediumship, then please do email me at davidhmedium@outlook.com. You can email me as many questions as you like. I'll add them to the list and I'll get to them as quick as I can. But until then, thanks for listening, look after yourselves, have a lovely day, and I'll speak to you all soon.